All right, welcome to the recap. So the first thing that I saw today is ES pretty much took all these lows, pretty much all the draws that I had, and tapped into this weekly gap. So here's on the weekly, and swept previous week low. But this weekly gap was still my draw on NQ, even though we had an SMT with previous week low. Mainly because I didn't really see much here for NQ to react off of, other than this little 4-hour gap, which I didn't really want to see hold. I just wanted to see lower into the weekly gap, and ES also edged this 1-hour gap here. So London low pretty much edged this 1-hour gap from over here. So this 1-hour gap was pretty much my draw on ES, and then this was my draw, the weekly gap on NQ. So there's two scenarios. Either we hit this weekly gap first, and then ES can trade into this 1-hour gap, sweep London low, and then maybe trade higher to this 4-hour gap and London high. Just rebalance this range here. Or we just come higher first at open, and then we can take a short down to this. Also, 1800, it didn't really trade into much here, but in the way we just displaced down here, it was pretty clear. For me, the weekly gap was a pretty clear draw. And on ES, it opened higher into this 1-hour gap here. So I waited for 10 a.m. Let me get rid of this. And when 10 a.m. opened, we still had this weekly gap, and we still had the 1-hour gap here on ES. So what I wanted to see is this 30-minute rejection block. So this one right here with 930. I wanted to see this get tapped into, and just this 5-minute range. So my expectation was for 10 a.m. to open higher into this right here, and then to look for an entry out of this. And there wasn't, I think there was a 30-minute on ES as well. I wasn't looking at ES too much, but it was just choppy. Like, there was not much going on here. But this was pretty much my PD array that I wanted to see get respected at 10 a.m. And 10 a.m. actually opens higher into this, and it barely misses OTE here, but we get this 3-minute entry. And I didn't take this, which also would have gotten edged, I'm pretty sure. Yes, so I didn't take this 3-minute just because it was a little too soon for me. I wanted to see OTE, maybe just a little bit higher, maybe CE of this 30-minute. I didn't see this move as much of a manipulation for the 1-hour candle, but it ended up actually playing out to this low. And then I pretty much expected the weekly gap to just get hit and not give an entry. But what happened is we actually started coming back up here because we hit this, the CE of this 4-hour rejection block here. So we start coming back up off of that, and we actually trade into this 5-minute here that we made. So this 5-minute rejection block was off of this 30-minute rejection block here, and it's also off of this 5-minute order block, and I still had my draw lower. So this looked good to me. ES was not really doing anything, like just absolutely chopping. but it also made equal lows with London low, I think. Let me go back and make sure. Okay. Did it? Yeah, so we did have these equal lows here, and we hadn't hit the 1 hour gap yet. So what I saw is we traded back into this 5-minute rejection block. And I did expect 10 a.m. to just give a reaction down to the gap. But I didn't really want to limit this. I wasn't super sure about just limiting this because we were holding that 4-hour rejection block. So I just waited for something obvious out of this range here. And that's when I saw this 5-minute get tapped. And then off of this 5-minute, I wanted a 3-minute rejection block in this range here. And we did make this 3-minute rejection block right here. But I didn't really like this, the way that this closed. Right? And I pretty much just expected us to hit CE. And a new 15-minute candle was about to open. So I wanted to see the 15-minute candle at 10:30 open and sweep this high. And to tap the CE of this rejection block. So we actually end up pretty much chopping on the 1-minute for a bit. But we do hit the CE of this 5-minute rejection block here. And we get a 1-minute. And I actually waited for a 3-minute, which we get. So when this closes, this becomes a 3-minute. But this 3-minute also becomes a 5-minute. So I took this 5-minute rejection block off of a 5-minute rejection block right here. And I just went for a 1 to 3 on this. The stop was here. And this delivered pretty nice. And I went break even. Actually, I moved my stop above this little 1-minute rejection block because this was off the CE of this 5-minute rejection block. There's actually a lot of entries. You could have just limited this 5-minute, which I don't really want to do. But there's that, and then there's this 5-minute. Off of this 5-minute, there's also this 1-minute, and then you get another 1-minute right here. But I just went for the 5-minute. So there's a lot of different ways to enter this. But yeah, I went for this, and then yeah, moved my stop above here, and then I went break even once we hit 10 a.m. which I almost got stopped on this candle, but thankfully didn't. And this little 1-minute right here held. And I only went for 1 to 3 on this, but I think I should have just held to the actual draw, which would have been a 1 to 5. So it does end up getting hit, the weekly gap. So that's the trade I took. Luckily the draw was pretty clear. Entry wise, it was a little bit difficult, but just had to be really patient and wait for a nice 3-minute or 5-minute rejection block down to the weekly gap. And once we hit the weekly gap, I think we just, flipped from there. So yeah, that's the trade that I took. And luckily, I had the right bias, had the right draw. And today actually gave quite a few entries, which was nice. Because it's pretty much just up and down. Wasn't really just like a straight move. I pretty much expected 9:30 to open higher here, which it did. And for this to be the high. And then for the weekly gap to just get hit right away. But luckily did get a good entry. So yeah, pretty good day overall. and hopefully they make sense, and I'll see you in the next one.